Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Teachers Talk Sports. This is our first episode with some video attached. I am Johnny McGee, and I'm joined as always by my guy, Brian F. Fenema. How are you today, sir?
Well, I'm better because I'm looking at this screen and damn these mustaches.
Yeah, baby, Movember's killing it.
Damn, they look full.
Yeah,
Our women are very lucky. They're very lucky ladies.
satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing good. I mean, I've been in a slump, both in fantasy and in gambling, but
Sorry to hear that.
I still root for the most dominant team in all of sports, the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think all things considered, it's good. And hey, we got a great content week, and we got a lot to talk about. And as we discussed in honesty with our listeners, we hit a little bit of a lull there where we were missing out, and the numbers were back up this last week. So we got to give the people what they want.
That's right. And what they want is basketball. And you know what? This is a great week for that because holy wow, there was a lot that went down in the world of basketball. And that's just one of the greatest things about this sport is it's a 12-month thing. There's always something popping.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, we could start where all the national guys did with CP3 and such, or we could get into what they all missed, which was obviously the biggest trade of the week.
I mean, I'm surprised we're the first ones to get to it because, biggest move in the last 10 years. Who knows?
Come on now. It's ridiculous. Robert Covington being shipped to the Portland Trailblazers for Trevor Ariza and 2 firsts, which sounds like a lot until you realize that one of those firsts is a guy named Isaiah Stewart, who is an old plotting big man. And the other one will be someone that's probably worse than him.
My reserving of judgment on this, I kept pretty quiet for 2 days. I really did. I wanted to gather my thoughts and figure out how I really felt about it. But sitting on that couch, not that couch, but the one to your left, and watching the draft and seeing who, I mean, granted the Blazers didn't pick him, but to see that it was just like a meh move, that I was like, hey, that's fine. But we were getting excited about some of the prospects. We did a very thorough and arguably the best breakdown that I've heard of the draft class. And there were guys we were excited about. And we got to that 10th pick when Jalen Smith kind of got picked early. And we were like, okay, what does this really mean? But at the end of the day, Robert Covington is a guy that people in Portland, I mean, I don't know, the national spotlight probably doesn't realize this, but us Blazers fans have been talking about Robert Covington for 2 years and just kind of saying that this is a guy who could be the missing piece. And now he's here. I mean, we were both on board for them to trade for him last year before the deadline, but the asking price was pretty high. But now you take Ariza, who I loved what he brought to the team, loved what he brought to the locker room. And then you add the picks, but man, 3 days later, because I think it happened on Monday, right? Or maybe late Monday. And I'm feeling good, buddy. I feel great. I know you feel great about it. So why don't you give me your breakdown? I mean, I feel like I know.
The reason I'm stoked about Robert Covington is, so for those of you that are maybe a little bit less acquainted with him, he's not a superstar and he never will be, but he is what people are always talking about, being a star in their role. So sometimes your role is to go get rebounds and block shots. Sometimes your role is to shoot threes and play defense on the best player on the opposing team. And that's what Covington does. He's a 3-and-D guy. He can shoot the three, although his percentages are not tremendous, but he shoots a high volume and his form is really nice. But defensively, especially from a team defense standpoint, he's awesome because he can guard most threes and most fours. And with that ridiculous experiment that they did in Houston last year, he was a serviceable 5. And I was going all over the Rockets message boards trying to get a feel for what they thought about him, and they loved him. He was only there for half of a year, but they loved him as their center. And so I don't want him to play center for the Blazers very often. But what he does is he allows the Blazers to have so much more flexibility in their lineups because Nurkic is clearly one of our best players. But there's some situations in some series where Nurkic, it's not always going to be the best for him to be playing against certain matchups. But now that we have Covington Covington can slide down and play that center for a little while, not too long. He could play the 4, he could play the 3, and because of that, he just allows the Blazers to play with so many more combinations that will work on both sides of the ball. And so that gets me super excited because, for one, the Blazers' defense has sucked, especially last year. It was like when we got down into the playoffs or close to the playoffs and you were watching the Blazers and you were watching the other teams, it's like, oh my God, we're just a layup line. And so that he's not gonna fix all of that, but he's definitely a huge piece. And he makes it so whatever else we go out and get in free agency, and we still have the full mid-level exception, which is worth $9 million a year. We'll get a decent player there. And then we have the biannual exception, which is worth about $3 million. We'll get a player that should be in the rotation with that. And Covington just makes it so much easier to fit pieces into this roster because wherever the hole is, he could kind of shift into it and fill it up. So that's what makes me the most excited about him is he just fits perfectly and he allows us to make other pieces fit more easily.
For sure. I mean, can play the 3, can play the 4. We saw him situationally play the 5 for a very small team. And actually, thinking back to that Houston team, he looked like a big, even though he's not, he's 6'9" or 6'7". He looked like it when he was out there playing, granted for a much smaller team, but he's got it, and versatility is what it is. The ability to fill out the roster a little bit more helps because you and I were just kind of sitting on when it came to the prospects in the draft. We were thinking, somebody who could fill that like 7-8 spot, maybe even the 9th man in the rotation. Now we have a guy who's going to start from day one. Now we have a guy who, I mean, I know that the tide has started to turn a little bit with you about the now necessity of bringing back an aged Carmelo Anthony. And I think that the signing of Covington has made that less of a necessity because we actually will have somebody who can score, somebody who knows their role. And just going into that Melo thing, he'd have to be okay with the role of coming off the bench. And then we still have to see what's going on with Rodney. He opted out of his player option, which I kind of understand. It was a low number coming off an injury, but by all accounts, the team loves him. He loves the city. And so I would love that they get something done, but it'll be interesting to see if Carmelo fits into that mix going forward.
Yeah, I hear you on all of that. Rodney said back in April that he was planning to opt out and sign a longer deal. These guys' minds change all the time, but I think that what's going on with Rodney was expected, and I personally expect him to sign a deal for probably like 3 years, $20 million or something like that. Tomorrow, we'll see. I feel confident that he's going to sign here for just a little bit of a longer deal, but crazier things have happened, that's for sure. As far as Melo goes, yeah, so I'm more team Melo than you are, which is not saying a lot. It's not like I love him.
This napkin is more team Melo than I am.
Right. But he fit for what we were last year, which was a team scrapping to get into the 8th seed. But you add Covington and you're hopefully healthy, and now we're a team that should be shooting to get home court in the first round of the playoffs. And I don't know where Melo fits into that because if he could buy into being the scorer off of the bench, I guess there could be a role for him. I thought his defense wasn't as horrible as he was advertised. So, he's got a big body. If he comes in and he's your backup 4 and he's down to play 18 minutes a night, I just feel like that's not who he is. It's not who he's ever been.
But does that mean he can't become that? I mean, the only thing keeping him from becoming that is his mindset, right? I mean, by all accounts, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he could. Maybe Dame could help talk him into it. If he comes back though, there's no way that he would start. I mean, I guess if you put Covington at the 3 and then you put Melo at the 4, you could do that, but it just it makes our defense so much less good than
you know that Terry Stotts and Neil O'Shea, head coach and GM, are not going to let him be the 4. They continue to want to prove that they made the right decision on Zach Collins. And their pride, I think, keeps them saying, hey, Collins is still going to be the guy. And honestly, I the only way I see them changing it from Dame, CJ, Covington, Zach, Nurk is they just bend the knee to Melo. And I just don't know if that's where we are as an organization. And we're also just assuming that, I mean, he might have other suitors. I don't know. But, it's like.
I've heard New York, the Knicks.
No.
The other thing with him is we don't have his bird rights, so we would have to give him part of that mid-level exception.
Yeah, yep.
So that's eating away at like a real player that we could go out and get. And yeah, I don't know. I would rather have Serge Ibaka. I'd rather have Paul Millsap. I'd rather have even Derek Favors. Like I'd rather have just about any of those names that get thrown out there for the mid-level exception over Melo personally. But I know that we don't speak for the entirety of Blazers.
Oh, hell no. I was about to say people are going to hate this take in town because for some reason, I mean, this guy was just like a firecracker. Like I was just constantly getting berated because if anytime I said anything negative about him, people were just calling me out in the comments. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just continue to live my life and not be afraid of what people in the comment section think. But yeah, it's interesting. They love Carmelo Anthony out here. And I know that the idea of Millsap has been very bullish in this town because people are just like, oh, but I think there's a lot of guys who could help us out. And I mean, we said it last year in around September, Danilo would have been a great guy to try and go for, but I think Danilo is going to command a pretty good contract based on the shallowness of this free agent class. And that's the only thing that's kind of keeping me a little nervous about Rodney is like legitimately a top 10 free agent right now. Like that just kind of goes into showing what this free agent class is. But it's unfortunate that no one said anything because it being in Portland, we knew that this was a big deal and we're going to make a big deal of this trade. It was a big deal. It's a good thing for the Blazers going forward and they can help construct their roster a little bit better. And I'm excited about it.
For sure. Yeah. And on top of that, just symbolically, it symbolizes that Neil O'Shea is actually going to make win now moves.
Yeah.
Which is not something that he's done. And it's been kind of frustrating, at least for fans like myself, where it's like, man, you don't get a Dame very often. Mm-hmm. And you can't just keep using these first round picks on these lottery picks like a lottery ticket as if they're going to just change into this.
Turn into something.
Yeah, like you gotta, at a certain point, you gotta realize like we have a superstar in 2020 who's not trying to leave us, and we need to make some moves to maximize that window. So just on that level, it makes me happy. For sure. So my wish list for the rest of free agency is I want to get a wing, a 3-4 with the mid-level exception if it's Gallo, if it's Millsap. I would even be cool with someone like Ibaka. And then with the biannual exception, I would love it if we could get a backup point guard. And a couple of guys that I got my eye on. One, Chris Dunn. He plays for the Bulls. They say he's the best defensive point guard in the league. He can't shoot worth a lick. Mm-hmm. But if it's true that his defense is that good, I just would love that flexibility of like, okay, now we're playing against an elite guard in the West, which there's so many of them. We're going to stick Chris Dunn on him. And that would just be nice to have that versatility, as well as if we get another serviceable rotation player at the wing or the 4, like a Jay Crowder, that it's not like we would be more talent heavy than the Lakers or the Clippers, but we would be a squad. Like to have 8 real dudes, that would be fun every single night.
They'd be a team that could beat anybody, but they also be a team that historically, like the Blazers have been in the last 3 years, are capable of losing to anybody. But we'll see. It's been fun. It's been exciting. It would have been nice to add a young body yesterday, but all things considered, I feel really good right now, and I'm excited for tomorrow. Because tomorrow is when it starts. Mm-hmm. Granted, a lot of the movement and a lot of the chatter has already started. So yeah. It's in motion, and there's a lot of other things. Obviously the Chris Paul deal is the next big thing that we should probably talk about. But just like real quick, did you see Seth Curry for Josh Richardson? Did you see that happen?
Yeah, I saw that.
That was interesting because I know Seth fills a good role, and I thought he filled a really nice role for Dallas. But I guess Richardson just brings a little bit more versatility. Not quite the same shooter, but that was interesting. But if you don't have anything,
No, I do. My take on that was that Josh Richardson, like you said, he's bigger, he can defend more. He's more of like a real. He's not as much of a specialist as much as he is like a player that can do everything sort of okay. Versus Curry being a phenomenal 3-point shooter, can't really do anything else. And then I think because they drafted Tyrell Terry, the kid out of Stanford, 31st overall, and he does a lot of what Curry does. He won't come in and do it from day one, most likely, but I think that's what they're thinking. They're like, we could trade Curry for Josh Richardson. He does more of everything, and then we're going to draft a specialist that does a lot of what Curry does. I think that's what they're thinking.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's been a lot of movement. Obviously, the first thing that happened, the first domino to drop was Chris Paul to the Suns.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people have liked it. I, for one, I don't think it's. I mean, I'm sorry, Connor. I'm sorry, Tomato. You guys are. I know you're loyal listeners, and I know you're kind of back in the Suns now, and John, but I don't like it at all. Like, first of all, just the fact that he's going into a 16th season, I assume they're bringing him in for leadership and also versatility, but I know that dude's personality, and I've seen videos that him and apparently him and D-Book are already in the gym together, which is great. He's not going to like DeAndre Ayton. He's not going to like him. I'm just going to tell you that right now. He's gonna be a dick to him. He's going to be rude to him. And it's only a matter of time before he starts to rub Booker wrong. And Phoenix is just walking around on eggshells because they're so scared that Devin Booker can leave them in 4 years. But granted, in today's NBA, it could be 4 days, apparently. So I'm sorry, Suns fans. It makes them more exciting. It makes them more relevant. Obviously, but I like Kelly Oubre. I've always liked Ricky Rubio, but they're not difference makers quite like Chris Paul is, and I understand it. But let's not start printing the championship T-shirts. Yes, they could probably make a push for the playoffs if everybody can stay healthy, but we're talking about the health of an old aging guard in his 16th year. I'm excited for you, Suns fans. But I think I'm the first person to say I don't think this is going to work out chemistry wise. But what do you think, buddy?
Dang, I thought that you were on the Chris Paul, and I was ready to be a contrarian. But now I have to go the other way a little bit. I also don't love it as much as the national media does, but I think you have to understand the mentality of a Suns fan.
Yeah,
it's not too different than the mentality of a Kings fan, where it's like we have an actual player on our team who is going to pair with our young talent. Like, we have actual leadership, and we probably should make the playoffs. After being horrible forever, and then you realize, like, we actually have actual expectations this year. That means a lot to a fan base of a team that sucks. And so I think if that's where you're shooting, if I'm a Suns fan, I'd be stoked. The way that I would spin it is Devin Booker is one of the best guards in the game. He's young. He's going to get mentored by one of the best point guards of all time. And I'd also spin it as, okay, Chris Paul, he's just going to be Lob City with Ayton. They got that kid, Jalen Smith. He's going to be Lob City with him.
Yeah.
And he's just going to kind of be the grease that makes everything flow a little bit easier. I agree. I think Chris Paul's a dick. And he'll probably rub people the wrong way. It seems like Devin Booker is like a pretty chill, kickback kind of kid. I mean,
he's a gamer.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a dude that wants to like get a military sergeant screaming in his face, which is what he's about to get.
He's heard worse on Call of Duty every night. So, but that's just the way Chris leads, and it takes a certain person. But yes, you're right. Like, Devin seems like he's got the kind of personality who can handle that.
Yeah,
it's just interesting because Devin goes from being the primary ball handler to now, I don't know. I just don't know. And you're right. You nailed it on the head. It's exciting for the franchise. It really is. Yeah. I'm just not ready to be like, hey, this is going to be a home run. And then we still haven't even mentioned the big overhanging thing, his contract. So I'm excited to watch it. I am. The Suns are going to be that team that I love to keep an eye on. They're going to be one of those teams that on a Tuesday night, I'm going to check him out if the Blazers aren't on. But it seemed like that was a very, very beloved move. And I'm just a little bullish on it.
It seems like the media loves Chris Paul. I actually, I just as someone that's watched his entire career, like all those guys from that era, I feel a bit of an attachment to him, even though I know he's a dick. And I know that you don't. I know you don't like him, but Part of me was bummed about the move because I would love to see Chris Paul get a title. And so he's not going to win a title in Phoenix. He'll make the playoffs probably, but I was hoping he would go to Milwaukee. And this point was made on another pod, but really, like if you look at what they gave up for Drew Holiday, which initially I was excited about. Now, after having processed it for a bit and also realizing this bogey deal might fall through, and he only has 1 year left on his deal. They gave up a ridiculous amount. And then you think of it, it's like, okay, yeah, Holiday's younger than Chris Paul, but is he really that much? Does he have that much more value than Chris Paul? I don't know. And I think Chris Paul actually probably would have been better for that Bucks team than Drew Holiday straight up.
Yeah.
So, I don't. Those two moves are pretty rough when you put them side by side.
Yes, there's a lot to unpack there because you're right. The 3 firsts for a guy with 1 year left on his deal is
and 2 pick swaps.
And 2 pick, yeah. So it could be as many as like 5 picks. Drew is a great guy. By all accounts, he's a really great guy. He's a really hard worker, and people like him. And I like him. I've always liked Drew. I've respected Drew.
Best defenders in the game.
Yes, he is a gamer. I like him, but I think you're right. Chris fits in nice. But going back to the Suns thing, do you think Suns, even if they gave up just like the Oubre and the Rubio and a pick for Holiday, I don't think the Suns fans are like ringing the bell, sound the alarm. I think it goes just like the Covington trade and just kind of flies under the radar. So they needed to make a splash. I understand it. Milwaukee's playing or is basically making moves scared, and I understand that. That's exactly what it sounds very familiar to what Phoenix is doing, and it all comes down full circle to the story that we got to talk about. And I know we're on opposite ends of the spectrum here, but it's just it's hard for me as a fan of basketball to see some of the movement that's been going on the past 2 years, and I'm just like, I don't know what to think of this James Harden shit. I really don't.
There's that explicit tag.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're on exact opposite sides of the spectrum. I think that. So my take on all of what's going on with James Harden, I mean, I pretty much agree with Russillo, like across the board. I think that the players should be empowered because the owners are and the GMs are, and there's no loyalty there, like guys will sign a contract in free agency because hey, I want to live in LA for the next 3 years, and you know what, I'll take a little bit less to do it. And then 6 months later, the GM's like, you know what, actually, we're going to ship you to Detroit, so have fun, bud. And there's no love lost there. So I feel like the players should have a similar level of power of if they're like, you know what, I hate it here. You're not doing what I asked. You're not doing what you promised. Get me out of here. To a certain extent, I understand that. But in James Harden's situation, first of all, it's James Harden, so easy to hate him, Don't love that man. Second of all, he had this entire team. He forced their hand to get Russell Westbrook when even just like a fan, like someone like you or me who just pays way too much attention, is like, Russell Westbrook is not the guy to get you over the hump. That guy sucks. I mean, he doesn't suck, but in the playoffs, it's like the best thing you could possibly do in the playoffs is say, lay off and let Russ shoot, and he will, and he'll shoot your team right out of the playoffs.
He sure will.
Daryl Morey didn't want that fool, and James Harden forced him to get him, and then it doesn't work, obviously, and then he's like, you know what, I'm out. And to me, that's not okay. It just sets a bad precedent. It also, as a fan of a small market team, unless you have a guy who's just a god like Dame, it gives you no chance. So that's my take. It's a bit more nuanced than like love or hate. I think you gotta look at the situation.
Yes. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with James saying, listen, things are not looking incredible here. Like, I don't love this. I'm upset. Trade me. Sure. You don't do it the way you did it, though. First of all, he ruined any kind of leverage that the Rockets have. by just coming out and saying it. So his agent is doing him a disservice. If you want to get traded, that's fantastic. You talk to management and say, listen, this is who I want. And if that's how you want to handle your business and get to Brooklyn, cool. But the second your agent puts it out there and says, oh, James wants to get traded, not only does he want to get traded, he wants to get traded to Brooklyn, it handcuffs the Rockets. Because now the Nets are like, well, he wants to come to us. Why do we have to give anything up for it? And it's tough because he said, like you said, you know what? We're a piece away. And for some reason, he decided that piece was Russell Westbrook. And now the Rockets are just stuck with two guys who are just upset and just being brats about it. And now everyone's just like, oh, well, I guess they got to give into it. I would love it if the Rockets like, you know what? Remember when you signed that contract? We're going to have you honor that. So, I mean, it's just a scary, scary situation. And I'm telling you, Johnny, we got 30 owners out there who are like, cool, continue to kick mud in our face. We're good. Just keep on coming. Keep on coming. Because guess what? The CBA is up for another negotiation, and they are not going to do it, dude. They are not just going to lay over. And, Dylan Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, is not in great shape right now because he's made all of his money in the service industry, so basically owning restaurants and hotels and casinos. And so he is taking an ass whooping over the last 9 months. And so I understand things are weird. Daryl's out the door. Like, Houston's a mess. I get it. But go about your business in the right way. And it sets such an awful example for this terrible, entitled basketball culture. It's just like, I don't know. There's nothing positive I can say. Like, as an NBA fan, if James Harden got traded, cool. If he gets traded to the Nets, I'm just back in that thing where it's like, cool. I mean, whatever. It's not going to work. I mean, so by all means, give it all up and make Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni and Amari Stoudemire look like idiots. Go ahead, guys. That's fine. It's not going to work. Let me tell you, this is not NBA 2K. It doesn't even work in NBA 2K. But guess what? They don't get mad at each other because they're fighting over the damn ball. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who disagree with me on this. If this happens, cool. I'm focusing on the Blazers, and that's it, because it's just setting a really, really nasty precedent. I really think it could be bad, and this will come back to bite the players in the ass. It really will.
No doubt. I mean, Kyrie can hardly coexist with anyone, let alone two of the other highest usage players in the league. And when he's saying right off the bat that he doesn't really want Harden. Yeah, in my opinion, I mean, it would be absurd. But in my opinion, if I'm Brooklyn and I'm going to go get me James Harden, I'm including Kyrie in that deal, because Kyrie, for one, is going to be the number one guy that's going to get angry and upset and moody and ruin the culture. And for two, he's the third best of those three players. So I think having three ridiculous ISO scorers, none of which are known for their defense on one team, doesn't maximize. I think we're basically saying the same thing. But, Anthony Davis set the precedent. Anthony Davis was the one.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Than's a lot.
But the difference, there's a key difference, and I realized it as you were explaining that take, which was a beautiful take, by the way. The difference was that the Lakers, even though they were the only suitor for AD, they were bidding against themselves. They were also bidding against LeBron James's age and also like ability to leave. Whereas the Nets, they don't need James Harden. Like, the Lakers needed Anthony Davis. Otherwise, LeBron was just going to waste away there, and he's not young enough to keep it up. Whereas in Brooklyn, like, they have both of those guys for a couple years. They're not as old, and they don't need James Harden to be one of the top teams in the East next year. So there's not the same level of urgency there. But also, they don't have the same pieces to give up. I mean, they're going to give up Karis LeVert, Dinwiddie, and some.
Who I love. Yeah, but
like, you give that up for CJ. You don't give that up for James Harden.
I don't think that they could. I mean, I don't know. There's so much money. Harden, I think, is at 45. LeVert's at 12 or something. Dinwiddie, I thought, was a restricted free agent. So, and then what's Jared Allen making? Like, he's a top 12 picks. So what's he making? 7 million, 8 million? It doesn't match up, and both of these teams are at the salary ceiling. So you have to make the contracts match. And I don't know how that works. And it's just playing a really different game. Steve Nash is one of my top 5 favorite players of all time.
Me too.
And I am so excited for him. He is such a likable guy. And I didn't want, like, I'm like, oh God, I don't want Kyrie and Kevin Durant to destroy this guy's mental. Like I'm worried for him. Like I'm afraid he's going to look like me in 2 years. You know, like what happened to Steve? He's got so much charisma. I'm really nervous about it. Like I'm just going to be watching from the back and just kind of like, okay. And it doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to be like, well, whatever. I mean,
right. I mean, we should probably get off of the Harden talk, but I don't think that they're not going to trade him there now, which is actually great. It's to your point. They're like, you know what? You want to go to Brooklyn? You have 2 years left on your deal. So no, not right now.
They say to him, listen, James, I heard Brooklyn's economy is going to be really incredible in 2023.
Right. Yeah. Get yourself an apartment now, buddy. But the Philly deal makes way more sense. Pair him with Morey, which I know Fertitta or whatever his name is doesn't want to do that. But if you could get a package around Ben Simmons, Houston fans could actually get into that.
That'd give him some life, some blood. I mean,
yeah. And then if you got Harden and Embiid, make a lot more sense of a pairing than those 3 in Brooklyn. So
yeah, oh yeah, and that I'm sorry, Rockets fan. I don't know what to say to you, but it's just like, that's why I mentioned Tomato. That's a Suns fan now. He's almost relinquished his Rockets rights, and we're like, hey, we've got plenty of room on the wagon up here in the Pacific Northwest. But you're going back to your point though. That's like that would at least give the city an energy, at least where they feel like we're not a dumpster fire. Like Houston is still a destination that free agents are going to go to. It's still like as long as I'm remembering from the census, it's still the 3rd biggest city in America. Like it's I'm sure it's going to be great. Like there's a reason to go there. I mean, James is there, so there's obviously good strip clubs. So I don't know. I mean, that would at least give them something to be excited about. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be exciting tomorrow because tomorrow the dominoes are going to continue to start to fall. And I love the play. I love the moving around. I just don't love when a top 10 guy is like, hey, I want to go be best friends with my other top 10 guy. And also there's a brat there too who's going to hate the entire situation. So
yeah, I know that we got a couple of Chicago listeners. So I do just got to throw out that Chicago is the 3rd biggest city in the country.
Oh, there you go.
Houston might be 4th.
Okay. I was like, I know it's massive.
It's up there. Yeah, it's up there.
Cool. Well, I mean, yeah, it's a fun time of year. It really is. And this window is short. There's a quick turnaround. We're going to be talking like actual games and outcomes.
I know.
Very soon. It's crazy. Wait. I know you can't wait. I am still so defeated. Well, it's obviously football will always be the center focus, but I'm defeated. I got the email from the Blazers on Sunday just saying, hey, we love you. You're not going to be able to cheer for your team, at least in our arena. I mean, and they didn't put a date on it. They just said at first, which obviously, it makes sense because this stay-at-home order is, at least in our city, is going to last a month. It is. It's going to last a month, so it would be right at that time where they're starting to let people in anyway. And I don't foresee seeing them being like, "Hey, come on in." But I just hope, we talked about it. The last live game we went to was March 9th. If it's a full year. It's gonna be hard on my heart, man. Like I moved to this city because I wanted to be able to see Blazers games, and I don't know. It's unfortunate. I'm excited to watch it.
You were there for the shot. Don't forget that you were there for the shot.
Oh yeah.
You were there for the 4 overtime games. It's not like
I needed a nap. Yeah, I know.
Your move was not for nothing.
There's just like a giant piece of me that's just like
no doubt.
It's sad, but it'll be nice. Like it really will be because the NFL playoffs are going to be going, and this will get us a lot to talk about, and it'll be a lot of good content.
Yeah,
for me and for you just to listen to. But we'll see. There's still a lot of pieces that need to fall into place before anyone could really make any kind of assessment as to what everything's going to look like. I mean, for now, all I can do is just continue to hope and watch Blazers Twitter and just see, hopefully Rodney gets something done. Because that's right. Bring back Rodney, and I think let's go. Let's run it. I'm ready to say that the Blazers can be a top 5 team in the East or in the West. And, they're going to be, I think they're going to play an exciting brand of ball. And when they're healthy, they're good. It's just that simple.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, we will be, I see us competing for a top 4 seed as it is. But before the next time we speak, the Blazers in all likelihood will add at least 2 rotation players that will. So look forward to that.
Yeah.
And, I want to talk just quickly before we sign off about fans in the stands.
Okay.
I feel and I know that we're going into a deeper lockdown now, but if you can go and eat at a restaurant or go to, let's not even do the restaurant thing, but if you can safely be like in a grocery store, and you're all masked up, I do feel that, just for the NBA's sake, I know this isn't an access thing for all of us peasants, but you should be able to allow those people into the boxes. Like let rich people into those boxes so that they can give some money back to the league. And then, if we could be in a grocery store, you could at least do 10% capacity, at least, and have us not 6 feet apart, but 20 feet apart. With masks on, I feel like I would do that, and I've been safe throughout this process. I would feel comfortable doing that.
Every other section, maybe, and then every third row or something. Yeah, I mean, there's so much that needs to go into it, and it's a state by state, and some, in some places, city by city, in the regulations. It's tough. There's just so much. There's just so much that needs to happen. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see it back. I mean, we tell the story. Us as fans, we paint the picture. We tell the story, and the bubble was missing that. Baseball had it. It was there during the ALCS and the World Series because they were in Texas and they were letting, I think it was only 10,000, but you could sense it. You could feel the energy, and the players could, you could tell the players were feeling with it. They're vibing off it. We compared it probably a few months ago. I compared it to basically watching on mute, and it's just you can see what's going on. But if the roles were reversed and you were just listening, it paints such a different story when you have the fans there because they're telling the story of what's going on. They're helping will a team back. They're helping put a team away with their energy, and it's tough. And since we're on the subject of it, fans also made yesterday so weird too because the draft was just, I don't know what to say. It was. I mean,
it was bad.
It was, it was boring. It was overly emotional. It was like a lifetime show. And it's that wonderful young woman. They're would they give her a chart and say, "Hey, all right, here's the must-ask questions. Have you ever witnessed anyone get murdered? Okay. Have you ever driven drunk with someone? Has your dog ever had a collapsed lung and you had to put him down?" It's oh my God.
Have you ever held your mother's hand in the hospital?
I was geez, stop, please. And then it's there was a couple, there's a few of them where you're okay, that's really, that's genuine. You the authenticity of some of these guys came through. And then some of them are just
to me, it's just an absurd miscalculation. Who do they think is watching the NBA draft? You're the Lifetime family people are not watching the NBA draft. A lot of my friends who are kind of ridiculous basketball fans, they're not even going to be watching the NBA draft. The only people watching this freaking thing are people that are obsessed with sports.
Not obsessed with stories
about your dog. I want you to sit there and tell me, listen, LaMelo Ball sucks at defense and he can't shoot. He's basically Lonzo Ball, but worse. When Mike Schmidt sits there and says, "I think he's the best player in the draft," I don't want Jay Billis to be yeah, but he can't shoot and he can't defend. Say that. Argue. Can I please give me Chuck?
Yeah. It was missing a lot of
Give me
juice.
the ringer crew. Like, give me somebody that actually has some life in them. Not just four dudes that are going to sit around and just say everything's perfect. Everything's not perfect. This is a bad draft. There's problems everywhere. LaMelo Ball sucks. Can you please just say something real?
Tell them.
I'm someone that's obsessed with draft, and I really was excited for this. And that product they put out there was just ridiculous.
It was hard because I was like, Johnny is so excited for this, and I don't even know what to say. I was like, by about the 8th pick, I was like, I'm sensing a theme here.
Right.
Things are getting, and it was funny because it's like, okay, yeah, there was a lot of emotion. Anthony Edwards, who has a dead grandmother and mother, he didn't cry. LaMelo Ball, who's entitled as all get up, he didn't cry, but everyone else,
everyone's crying.
Waterworks. I was like, I am very emotional. I would cry. Listen, I'm telling you, I cried when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I cried. I cried last week because I was so upset about the lockdown. I cry. I'm a crier, everyone. But Jesus, you don't have to force it every single person. It was just like, okay, we should have just played a drinking game. Oh, there it is. You physically see a tear. Take a drink.
Yeah.
And I know this segment might rub a couple people the wrong way, but it was bad TV. I'm sorry, it was bad TV.
Yeah.
That's all we want to say. I'm really excited that these guys get to pursue their dream. It's a weird system to go into because there's just not a lot of excitement. Then you add to the fact that it's just completely online.
Right.
At least you get to look into the homes, which is nice. But the NFL did a great job with it.
Way better.
And so that's where I think maybe that's what it was. Is we were just kind of like, hey, the NFL draft was great. Maybe if we just do something similar, it'll be something like that. Okay, I got past an important note. So,
okay, what you got? Tell me. Read it from Nisha.
This is a perfect way to close the pod out. So, for those of you at home, it is 2:18 on the West Coast. This is the end of our workday, and my wife, it is not the end of hers. Please don't say any curse words for the next 10 minutes. Also, you are so loud.
And fiend.
That's how emotional I was about last night's NBA draft.
Yeah, me too. I apologize for my emotions.
Well, this was fun, buddy, and I know we're going to have a lot of content going forward because, and listeners, listen, hey, we're going to get back in the lab ASAP. We don't know if it's going to be next Wednesday. It might be as early as this Sunday. Probably not because the Chiefs are playing the night game, but we're going to get back to it. We're going to have a lot. We're basically going to gauge it based on what the news. We knew we had to get in this because there's a lot of big news to talk about. So we're going to let the content drive us. I'm sure you all want to listen to me talk about how complete the Kansas City Chiefs are, but we'll save that for another time. We'll save it, guys. Hey, I don't know if you knew it's the Super Bowl Sunday night, so one of the two teams is treating it like the Super Bowl. That's for sure. So it'll be exciting. But hey, this was fun. I like seeing you. I think I
like the video. Yeah, this is fun.
Wait until we go viral because everyone's like, hey, damn, those guys. Look at that.
Dashes.
I mean, we've heard them and they're great, but man, now we can see them. Big time. Here we come.
All right, buddy. All right, Nisha students. Good luck out there.
All right, we'll talk with you real soon. We'll get back in the lab in a week and a half. We'll make it work.
That's right.
All right, buddy. Brother. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Later, buddy.